Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. It's Sunday Comics, yay! And that means we're going to talk about a comic for the next hour or so. And I've been doing the new X Men. It's just fun to delve into this cult classic, great comic book run. And we are now into the second issue of the classic John Byrne, Chris Claremont, Terry Austin run. Last issue, number 8, was the first John Byrne 108 was the first John Byrne issue, and Dave Cockrum is doing the covers, and I think Terry Austin is inking it. And it's funny because I haven't taken these comics out of the box in like 20 years. This is my comic off the rack. If it's like Braille, I put tracing paper over this so many times that I used that figure as like a model for the male anatomy when I envisioned myself as a comic book artist as a kid. Whenever I was drawing, I don't know how many times I drew this over and over and over again. You could feel the pencil lines digging in. I love this comic. Uh, as I was saying, I my first X Men comic that I bought was X Men 112, but there was a stationery store called Howie's on the way to my grammar school, and I would stop in there after school, and they just had this alcove with stacks and stacks of comics. Howie was this ancient man when I was a kid, and I don't think he returned the comics, so you'd just find stuff. So like I got X-Men 112 at a 7-Eleven spinner rack on the way to a barbecue, and I just read it over and over and over and over. I just remember because I remember just sitting in the corner. It was a friend of my father, that he worked with, and I just sat there. I was like one of the only kids, just so I just sat there over and over again reading this comic. So I remember that vividly. And then I was like, who are these X-Men? And when I went to Howie's, I just bought any X-Men that I could find, and I read them out of order. Like at that point, I didn't understand this numbering. Like I didn't understand the order that you were supposed to read. So I just read comics out of order. Something that horrifies me to this day. You know, so I just have a fond memory of this period, but it was always like fractioned because I read the comics out of order. I found them out of order. I was missing issues. And then about 20 years ago, I bought all the ones that I was missing and then read them all in order. And that was the last time I read them. Maybe that was like 2003, 2004. So this is, I don't know what this, I just smeared my glasses. So now I'm reading these again, like in order for the first time in like 20 years. And it's just bringing back so many memories. And it's fixing plot holes that I thought, but that's because I don't know, I read them wrong as a kid or whatever. But anyway, I'm just filibustering until people wander in. So of course, Fund My Comics still has Heroic Tales 2. Heroic Tales 2, as you can see, exists. It's a real comic book. It's not vaporware. You know, the flip book worked perfectly. You can see the inside. It goes upside down so that this is also the correct way. It's got a letters page. It's got ads. It's got a page for merchandise. You could buy merch. There you go, like a merchandise store. You can scan that QR code, take you to the site. We got ads. We got Mary Sue. We got an ad. We got ads. It's a real comic book. It really exists, and I got a notification that I'm getting a package tomorrow. I'm really hoping it is the comics from the printer, and then I can just start fulfilling. As soon as I fulfill, I spend a full day fulfilling. As soon as I drop them in the mail, then I'm going to come back and release all the digital files. So just making the digital people wait until the physical people. I think that's fair. So you can still get it. You can still back it. And it really exists. It really exists. Other fun news. Vaughn Coleman, who does Phenomenova, he was at my house last night. He's at a local convention. So rather than drive all the way home, he asked if he could stay here. And he showed up last night around 9:30. And then we streamed. We played some board games. And then he passed out. Poor kid was exhausted. And then he woke up early this morning and we went to my favorite diner. And man, I had dinner with him a year ago. And I forgot how much that kid could eat and how fast that skinny kid could eat. Because he was also in a hurry to get to the convention. So I took him to my favorite diner and he liked it. So yeah, we made plans to make plans again in the future. We got Marcus Kellegrew over here. How you doing, Marcus? How's everything? Happy birthday. Happy 60th birthday. Good to see you with your family. Hope everything is a good weekend for you. Soda Jerk, hey, good morning. I often leave gaps in my reading, but it never stopped me from pressing on. Yeah, back then, I just read what I could. I was a kid, and I didn't know about numbering. It wasn't until, I almost spilled my coffee. There was a pen. I'm putting my coffee on a pen. So back then I didn't know about numbering, so I just read comics as I got them, and sometimes I would pick up an older issue and then a newer issue, and I was always confused until a friend actually sat me down and explained that these numbers are the issue number, the order to read them. It's like, oh, okay, because this is a number. What does this number mean? I still don't know what that number means. So I thought this was like some sort of date, whatever. There's the price. This is February with the, I didn't know. I was a stupid kid. What do you want me to say? So and then when I finally figured out which order to read them, it was so good. So good. Hey, I got my blessing. There you go. I'm the pro. Good morning. How's everything? It drives me nuts that it has the at name. I wish it has your first name. I call that the last name. Marcus. Oh, hope you had a good weekend. What else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So Vaughn and I played Dice Throne. Dice Throne is a 2-player battling game. So think of it as like Street Fighter. And you could, the original one is like fantasy tropes. So you could the barbarian versus the elf and the dwarf, whatever. And then they added like the cowboy, the necromancer, and things like that. And then they got the Marvel license. And so we played the Marvel license. I did not get the X-Men one. I forget why. And now he peaked in. The way I collect board games is I'll buy a board game and whatever. And that's it. I'm just done with the board game, whatever. And then when I play it, so it'll sit on my shelf and shrink wrap. And then I'll take it out and play it. And then when I play it, then I look up to see if there's expansions or whatever or anything else. But I don't like Cbon games. There's a company they're just known for constantly putting out more and more content for their games, like other figures and other cards and whatever. And you could easily sink $1,000 into Zombicide. So I stop myself. I only get something if I play it. So if I buy Zombicide and it's in my shelf shrink wrapped, I obviously don't need all the expansion stuff. But if I play it and I enjoy it, then I allow myself to buy one expansion. And then when I play that, then I allow myself to buy, you know what I mean? Otherwise, you could just buy everything. And then you have $1,000 invested in a board game and you never even touched it. So that was a way to limit, just like I limit myself to buying comics in order. Like Vaughn was laughing at me. We were talking about Amazing Spider-Man. My earliest Amazing Spider-Man is 23. So even if I see a good price on 18, I won't buy it because I got to buy 22. And then I got to buy 21. Otherwise, because you can always find those issues. So you could spend thousands of dollars buying those issues. You know what I mean? So I limit myself by buying them in order. It's just a way to keep me from spending money. You buy now. How you doing? If you can, put your first name so I know. Like I recognize these avatars, but some of the people I don't recognize them. But I do recognize Dave Brink. How you doing? How's everything? How's Safeguard coming. Great name. Great name for Dave has such good names for his characters. Safeguard is your next project. Did I see correctly that you have? Here you go. You can get Genuine Comics. That's Dave's comic company. That the Perfect 10 collection is now on Kickstarter. So there you go. You get a second chance. Second chance. What did we say here? I have some board games I never played. I need friends. I have friends and I schedule board game nights. But I still bought way too many board games. I bought way too many board games. And I'd say at least 2/3 of them are probably still in shrink wrap. In the board game world, that's called your shelf of shame, the games that you haven't played yet. Descent in World of Warcraft board game and collecting dust. Yeah, I don't have Descent because I don't need any more one, tactical miniature one verse mini games, but that looks awesome, but I don't have it. But I do have World of Warcraft, and I'm looking right at it. It's right over there, unopened. I bought it used on eBay, and I got all the expansions. I got everything at once because it was a huge deal, and I love the miniatures, and I haven't played it. That's a good strategy for. Yeah, that's exactly why I do it. That's it. Oh, okay, Ellie the Moonites. Hi. Okay, I knew I recognized the avatar. It's funny how the avatar becomes your face, and then to the left of the @ becomes your first name, and after the @ becomes your last name. I bought board game, but then my friends don't want to play it. Oh, where do you live? Do you live in New York? My problem is with this new schedule, I'm working 3 to 11 during the week, so I had 2 board games nights, Mondays and Tuesdays. That's why I didn't stream on Mondays and Tuesdays. Is I had friends over physically in person, sitting down at that table playing board games twice a week, and then sometimes Saturdays we have like last night. My friend Jimmy, who plays V&V with me, we've been friends since 3rd grade. His wife Karen, my wife, and then Rich and Dom. We all sat around the table, 6 players. And we played Charterstone. And Charterstone is, I love it. It's a wonderfully complicated game. I love complicated games. It's a wonderfully complex. Complicated means difficult for the sake of difficult. Complex just it's complex, not complicated. And the thing I like about it is every time you play it, depending upon what happened, the game changes. There's new cards added. There's new rules added. There's new things added every time you play. And at the end of 15 games, it's over. And then you could still play it, but it's locked in stone, and you have a unique version of the game different than anybody else on the earth. And you can still think you can still play it, but the campaign is over. And then and only then is there a winner in the campaign. And there's a story. So far, the king is pretty pissed at us. Charterstone is 6 players. We went out and we're colonizing a new area and building it up and sending resources back to the king. But so far, we're doing a bad job, and the king's pretty pissed at us. So the Forever King, he's gonna kill one of the players, kill their body, and they play as a ghost, and you have to reclaim your body. So whoever has the lowest score is going to become an undead ghost. And here you go. Check out the Perfect Collection, Kickstarter. JP Fawn. Okay, I knew I recognized the avatar. While rereading a lot of classic X-Men, I realized that I've moved on from some of the characters. For instance, I've accepted the Beast is my favorite X-Men. Okay. When was New York Comic Con? Like 2 or 3 weeks ago? 2 or 3 weeks ago? I didn't go. I didn't buy a ticket. I just forgot. I just forgot. it just slipped my mind. And then when I remembered and went to buy a ticket, it was sold out, and you had to go to like Scalpers for like $300 for like a $40 ticket. So I was just like, I'm not gonna. And then I was gonna go, but I'm an old school guy. Like when I make plans, I call up Marcus. Hey, Marcus, we're gonna do this. Marcus says okay, and then we confirm. We set up time, we set a place, because Marcus is an old school guy like me. But all these youngins, we make plans. Nobody confirms. Nobody says where we're going. So I was like, okay, I guess we're not making plans. And then I got calls. Where are you, man? I'm like, I'm home. Nobody said what we were doing. Nobody said where we were meeting. So to me, if you don't say I'm going to meet you at such and such street at such and such time, we didn't make plans. So I feel bad. I feel like I let people down. I live on Long Island, but my car's broke down. I'm limited to walking. Oh, I live on Long Island also. Let's play games. I live out in Suffolk County. Yeah, like 3 weeks ago. Yep. I do my artwork for a gaming company, Mythic America. Yeah, role-playing games. I don't buy any role-playing game stuff because I'm happy with the one role-playing game that I still play. Back in the 90s, I went socially engineer my way into New York City for free. Those were crazy times. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I already showed off my comic. Talked about Vaughn. And all right, I guess we could begin. So let's check out what is a hero villain in the Marvel Universe. I would say it's about 5-1. Five heroes to one villain. I guess that we know about. Yeah, but in my comic book world, Dave, most metahumans are villains. Just think about how crummy people really are. You know, what do they say? Character is it's how you behave when nobody's looking. So just imagine if you had power. Look at COVID. Look at how horrible people became. You know, they became petty tyrants. So just imagine you got some power. So it's the rare example. So in my world, I'd say it's like one superhero to 100 villains, but also most people have like powers that aren't obvious or whatever. You know, most people who have powers. You know, but also in my world, the nature of superpowers distorts your brain, and sooner or later you kind of go crazy. And you know, there's only a few metahumans who are active for over 10 years that resisted this. You know, they're like champions of virtue, Patriarch being one of them. So yeah, people rightly fear the powers, you know, and the government ain't wrong in regulating them, but the government is also the government, so it's not to be trusted. Just, you know, two wrongs don't make a right. Yeah, same here. The general versus the hero ratio is about 1 to 10. Most people suck. Yeah. This happened to one of my coworkers. She was all nice and then got promoted to manager, and now she talks down to us. Yep. We have a saying in my construction job: you want to see what somebody's really like, make them the foreman. You know, their true personalities come out. Which is why, like, now that I consider myself a foreman of my comic book company, I try to be as sweet as possible to everybody. Like, I try not to lose my temper. I try not to get mad. You know, ask Marcus. He's in the chat. He's doing a story. I try not to pester. I try not to, you know what I mean? I'm totally aware, because I've seen coworkers, guys that I was friendly with, become foremen and then just become total jerks. So I'm very self-aware that once you become a boss, once you have power, your true nature shows up. And, you know, so there you go. All right, so let's check out X-Men 109, 35 cents, 1977. You can't stop me, X-Men. Weapon Alpha always gets his man. Wanted Wolverine, dead or alive. So now we got a Wolverine-focused story. And up until now, Wolverine has been a C-list character in the X-Men. You know, he's oh man, that was the best sip of coffee ever. Oh my God. I just gotta bask in the enjoyment of how delicious that cup of, oh man, sorry, but very rarely do you have like a perfect cup of coffee. Oh man, that was so good. And anyway, up until now, Wolverine hasn't been that important in the X-Men. All he is the jerk. You know, he's stabby jerk guy. And Len Wein created him. I don't know if Chris Claremont liked him or disliked him, but Chris Claremont really didn't do anything with him and as I think Dave Cockrum actively didn't like him. And now John Byrne came in, and John Byrne loves Wolverine. So now Wolverine is going to rise to prominence. You know, he's really an unknown character at this point. You know, now he's one of the most popular superheroes ever, but there was a point when he was Mr. Nobody. And this is the beginning of his rise to fame. And at this point, I'll talk about the book. Go to the chat, book chat. So let's see. Marcus says, yeah, John is nice and as an artist you can work with. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I like I said, I try to be self-aware. If you ever work with me, I send you the script. We'll talk. Send me a message. I'll respond, whatever you want. And then there comes a point where I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to bother them anymore. And I just say, I'm just going to message you on Fridays, because I learned the hard way that if you don't keep in contact, some of the artists will just disappear. They lose interest or they work with somebody else, or they just assume, you're not. So just Fridays, I'm like, hey, how you doing? It's Friday. I'm just checking in. But you got questions, we'll always talk. But I don't want to be the guy like, well, P. John, I mean, unless it's understood, we got a deadline, And right now, my deadline guy is Renzo, and he's hitting all the deadlines. Somebody else in my group that caused everything to be late. So there we go. Back when Vindicator was still he's Weapon Alpha. He's not even Vindicator at this point. He's Weapon Alpha. Have you been watching Dispatch? It's You Decide animated comic. I never even heard of it. Send me a DM with like Heroic Tales. There you go. You can still get my comic. It's in printing. Of course, I overprint, so you can still get it. What the campaign does is gives me a ballpark of how many to print, and then when the campaign's over, I have a ballpark figure, and I always overprint. You know what I mean? But like, I'm not going to print 100 and then find out I only sold 7. And I'm not going to print 100 and find out that I sold 600. You know what I mean? So the campaign is how many do I need? And should I even bother with the next issue, kind of thing. Byrne wanted to promote the Canadian character. Yes, John Byrne, if I recall correctly, was born in England but raised in Canada. Vindicator and Alpha Flight mentioned. Yeah, there's no Alpha Flight at this point, and he's not Vindicator yet. He's Weapon Alpha. That was his original name. Unfortunately, in a formal setting, at least when one becomes the boss, there is a bit of distance, and they have yes, absolutely. There is. You have to respect that which is why every job I go to, somebody goes, "Oh, you go to that job, that foreman's an ass." Every foreman's an ass. So I always give the foreman the respect that they deserve, and just because Phil and Gary have a problem with each other, that doesn't mean that I have to have a problem with either one of them. I try to decide if the foreman is cool or not on the foreman's actions towards me. I can't control what happened between you two guys. I got to go there. I got to work there. I'm an individual. I kind of can make up my own mind, which is what happened in Comicsgate and everything like that, which is why I'm ostracized, because I made up my own mind. But and I get along with this guy, even though that guy hates that person. I don't care if you two hate each other. It has nothing to do with me, unless it's like an egregious like crime. I don't care if you two don't like each other. It's none of my business. But anyway, a foreman has to behave a certain way, and you have to respect the foreman's authority. Just because you're friends, he's now your foreman. After work, you're friends, but at work, he's your foreman. You got to respect that. And some guys don't. Yes, James Hudson had a few names. Yep, he did. Every foreman is an asset. Maybe it comes with a job. People walk all over nice guys. Yeah. Like my foreman right now is so nice. He's almost too nice. Like I don't want him to become a jerk. He's like the nicest, fairest guy. He's like the perfect foreman I've ever had. Gives me work. He trusts me to do it and leaves me alone. But he does come and check up, which is what he should do, because it's a construction site. I could have a heart attack. I could be wounded. I could be laying on the ground unconscious. He comes and checks. That's what you're supposed. Some guys resent that when the foreman comes and checks up on you. No. The foreman a foreman that doesn't come and check up on you is not doing their job, because things could happen, especially with a physically demanding job with guys in their late 50s. You got to check up on them. A foreman checked up on my dad. My dad was passed out. He had internal injury, and he saved my father's life. You know what I mean? That ever since that happened, that was like 30 years ago. It's been something that's always, the foreman has to come and check up on the men. It's just what you do. Damn those British foreigners influencing our media. Our media, mostly joking. Yeah. All right, so let's open up the book. It's funny. I call comic books makes me laugh sometimes. Here we got the Johnson Smith Company. I love these ads. And I miss them, You know, and I keep joking around that like maybe I'll make up a superhero named Johnson Smith, and he has all of his powers from all these ads. He could summon ghosts. He has X-ray specs. He could hypnotize people. He's got this armband that makes him super strong. He can predict the future with his 8-ball. I just think that's funny. Do I put that in regular comic? Or is that like a parody thing that you put outside of continuity? I don't know. It's just a funny idea that's been in the back of my head forever. So the Uncanny X-Men, we got Chris Claremont, author, John Byrne, artist, Terry Austin, inker, Joe Rosen. I need more light. Joe Rosen, letterer, Andy Yakis, colorist, and Archie Goodwin. And I don't care if my face is glowing. I need to see the comic. But look at this group shot of the X-Men. Look at the way he draws them all. And they're just like classic. Such a good. We got Wolverine over here in this costume. That was Marcus said that this was going to be his new costume, but John Byrne hated it, put it back to his old costume. He basically murdered Fang from the Imperial Guard and took his costume because he was naked. Man, I got to get out of these alien threads before I start climbing the walls. My friends, we are home. Leandra, sexy aliens. What is that alpha or whatever that meteor comes? You think the space alien chicks will be sexy? The men will be monstrous, and then the alien chicks will be sexy. Look at Scott Summers. Look at Jim Shooter. Look at that Farrah Fawcett hair on Jean Grey. That's like so 1970s hair. Nightcrawler teleporting in. Yep, there we go. We got great group shot. It's establishing Westchester County, New York, specifically Charles Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Now that begs the question. At this point, Chris Claremont is figuring out all the backstory. Like at this point, Storm is like 20, 21. He's specifically mentioned as 19. How old is Scott and Jean? Are they 22, 23? How old is Nightcrawler? You know what I mean? And then is Wolverine the old man like he's supposed to be? Like, now we know that Wolverine's been around since the Civil War. But at this point, is there that much background on Wolverine? Like, why is he hanging out in a school for youngsters? Like, we all know that the school for youngsters is just a facade for the X-Men. But like, is it like the Legion of Superheroes where they're all supposed to be teenagers? So what when is the story? I'd like to talk to Chris Claremont about stuff like that. So let's turn to let's check out the chat. Where are we? Caffeinated Wolf. Is this NDA, Andrew? If you don't mind, tell me your first name. You didn't mean to be to the left of the. Hope everyone's enjoying their weekend with some good comics. Yeah, I had a great weekend. Not checking up on workers on work site is negligence. Yes, I agree. Especially in a dangerous profession like construction. Supposedly two guys got seriously injured at the airport on Friday. Such a big job site that you don't know everything. And then I worked the middle shift, but a truck unloading steel, the steel shifted and fell off the truck and hurt two guys. I don't know if they're dead, alive, or whatever. I'll find out on Monday. I always felt Vindicator was a great name, but his costume was a bit on the nose with the giant maple leaf. He was supposed to be like Captain Canada. Yeah, something like that. I think it was a goof on Captain Canuck. And, great costume. Like he's literally wearing the Canadian flag, and like they called him Vindicator because I don't think they knew what name to give him. It's just kind of a cool name, but it didn't fit. So I was kind of happy when they changed it to Guardian. Guardian is a more patriotic superhero name. Oh my God, he's gone by Major Maple. Actually, yeah, I think Wolverine called him that as a goof. You should put form an anecdote in your comic as a slice of a story about morals. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. One of the great comic teams, absolutely. Old Dirty Fatty, since you watch it, I sent you a DM on Twitter. If you have a difficulty using Fund My Comic, because I didn't see your order, so I hope you're not discouraged and don't want to order. So let me know. Let me know what you're doing. I used to live in Westchester County. It's not too far away from here. I was never a huge Wolverine fan, but out of the most X-Men, he's the one you would probably want to read about in the miniseries. Yeah, they interesting character. They're all interesting characters. There's not one of these characters that I wouldn't want to read a miniseries about. That's how good Chris Claremont was of giving them all backstories and everything. Hale, Wolverine is the PE teacher. In the movie, didn't he say art teacher? R.J. Williams has call sign Orion. You could get that at Fund My Comic. Wolverine is the creepy janitor or gym coach. Yeah, that would be funny. I'm the custodian. Happy Sunday. Thank you. Yes, sir. NDA Andrew. How you doing? How's Blue Shift? Okay, so there we go. I can turn the page. We got Myra McTaggart. I've always had a soft spot for Myra McTaggart. This just makes me laugh. She scolded him. Kurt Wagner, I've told you time and time again, never teleport inside the house. You scared the daylights just now, and you raised a devil of a stench as well as you. I did. I'm sorry. The door was crowded, and I was in a hurry. Myra, my love, shut up and kiss me, darling. And Xavier is looking concerned. Why is Xavier looking concerned? Because Charles Xavier is established as like kind of a ladies' man, and Myra was a past love. But why is he getting all concerned when his current squeeze is right there? Getting some alien tail. And Storm rushes up to her attic to check out her plants. And I love this because for the next 100 issues, even more, we see the same thing. Like, I don't know if John Byrne drew or Dave Cockrum drew a schematic of the X-Men mansion, but they used a lot of the same rooms and it established a continuity, a look of I don't know if it was based on a real house or mansion that either one of them have been to. So we see this loft time and time again, and it's filled with her plants that she takes care of. And now she's using her weather powers to rain on them. There you go. But a summer shower requested. I trust. Now that begs the question. That loft better be insulated because this just looks like now as a homeowner, I don't want there to be rain anywhere inside my house. That's just going to cause mildew and damage. But I assume the X-Men properly, sealed off this room so Storm could do her crazy weather stuff and not destroy the rest of the house. And then, of course, she's naked. John Byrne never missed a chance to make Storm naked. And here we got, this. Like I said, did they use a real map? Did they use a real location? Because that really helps in the setting of the comic. It makes it feel like a real place. Like they literally give an address. You could drive. You're not going to find it. But I wonder if that address is a house. Because like Doctor Strange's house is an apartment building where Roy Thomas lived. So I wonder if, 13 Grey Malkin Lane? I wonder if there really is a Grey Malkin Lane, and is there a mansion there? Marcus, you live the closest, is there? And that's Jean Grey's parents. I should have sworn I just heard thunder, but forget it. We need to have a talk with our daughter. So, remember, the last 10 issues were a blur. They happened in a matter of days. So Jean Grey died, came back to life as the Phoenix, powered up. I'm not even bringing up that Phoenix Force because as of right now, the Phoenix Force didn't exist. It wasn't even a concept. This was just Jean Grey leveled up. So she's different, and the parents are concerned. And why? Flashback. So we got this rounded corners to indicate a flashback. We got John Byrne drawing the Imperial Guard over here. That's just so cool. And before I turn the page, let's check out the comments. Alien Tail, not DuckTales, for the record. There was a South Salem and North Salem. The street, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's a real place. And here we got sea monkeys, not to be confused with sea hippies, dirty, dirty sea hippies. And then we got these books that Marvel was getting published by Siegel and Schuster. You know, Stan was very proud of the fact that they were getting books in bookstores, which, you know, now is common. But at the time, getting comic books sold in legit bookstores was a big deal. And it was, you know, one of the ways Stan Lee was trying to get comic books, what's the word, legitimized. So here we go. Gladiator, no, you will not harm the X-Men. Hear me, my Imperials. You are sworn to serve the Empire, and from this moment forth, I am the Empire. My lady Leandra, just forgive me, but you are not. True, the Emperor is mad, and the Shi'ar throne has no heirs but you. But you led a rebellion against the Empire. By law, you are a traitor. Yet you were right in what you did. And now that we know you will be crowned, but as of right now, you know, it's not the time and not the place. So there is a constitutional crisis going on or the imperial crisis. D'Ken, her older brother, was the rightful heir. He went nuts, tried to destroy the universe. She rebelled against him, even though she was right by Shi'ar law. She's a traitor, so she must be killed. But the people are like, yeah, well, you know, he did try to destroy the universe, and she did save us from destroying the universe. So let us figure out what's going on. Meantime, go hang out with the X-Men. And then Jean Grey knows that Corsair is Scott Summers' father, and she's not telling anybody. And the Starjammers disappear. Brings us all up to speed. And, you know, Storm also knows now. She overheard, and they're talking. Storm and Jean Grey's friendship is forming. And now they're going back through this Stargate back to Earth. Brings us back to the present. Beautiful way to sum up everything, and then also give us a little bit of exposition. Clarifies what happened in the past couple of issues. You know, Chris Claremont could be succinct when he needed to be. And now Jean's parents want to talk to her. Do you want me to come along? No. You know, Scott, I love you, but I got to go deal with my folks. You know, you're not my husband. You're just a boyfriend. No offense. But I'm going to go talk to my parents. And she needs to go talk to her parents. You've changed since you became the Phoenix. Changed even more since you faced the Neutron Galaxy. I need to talk to you about Corsair. I have a crazy feeling that I know him. Well, there's always my brother Alex. You know, well, Scott, you know, story of my life. I guess, have you seen that? Oh, Scott, I've been meaning to tell you he's gone. Yeah, to my island. He and Laura Dane wanted some time to sell. So Laura Dane, you know, Polaris, and Havoc, Scott Summers, Alex Summers, rather, they went to Myra McTaggart's island, and then Banshee, and there they're going to go, and he's enjoying a cup of coffee. Interlude, and then you see this box has a different border indicating a break in location. Target marked. Systems locked. He's stationary at the moment. Estimate primary contact in 2 hours. What is going on? Well, I saw the cover, so I know exactly what's going on. But I love this. We got what? This is page 7, but it's what, page 3 of actual comic book story, you know, and it's a lot of characterization, filling us in, and just cool shots of people in costumes, out of costumes. So a little bit of plot, a little bit of character, a lot of characterization. What are Dirty Sea Hippies? I assume that you did not get Heroic Tales #1. Asterix, see Heroic Tales #1 for what are Dirty Sea Hippies. Claremont gets a lot of almost all the credit for these comics, but it was plotted 50-50 with John Byrne. Yeah. And I think John Byrne wanted to take over writing, and that's why he left X-Men. Love her take the Myers-Briggs personality. Have who take it? Jean Grey take the personality test. Here we got Shark Teeth, Charles Atlas. I love this Jack Davis werewolf. And there we go. So we got Kurt on the phone. Amanda, it's Kurt. What do you think, Kurt? Very funny. Listen, are you doing anything this evening? You're not? Would you? Wonderbar. So with ease, he spins around and teleports. Boom. So is this the first name? Is this the first time we heard Amanda Stefton, who's just creepy, is Nightcrawler's girlfriend, and then later on becomes his sister, adopted sister, but sister nonetheless. A lot of creepy stuff. As much as I love Claremont, there's a lot of creepy stuff with him and Byrne. And then we got Peter Rasputin, Peter the Wretched. That's what Rasputin means. It's not a real Russian name. It's like a derogatory name for the mad monk, Rasputin the Wretched. So I just think it's funny that Peter the Wretched. I'm sorry, Mom. So he's writing a letter to his parents. I give up. I'm a no good. Boom. He goes, Guten Tag, yourself, Peter. I've been speaking with Amanda. Her friend Betsy is free tonight, interested in a double date. I'm surprised Elizabeth even remembers me. So is this the first time? Are they showing up? I don't recall Amanda or Betsy. We're going to the Star Wars. It's one of my favorite films. Half the cast looks like my relations, especially the Wookiee. I would love to, Kurt. I'm going on a picnic with Moira. She tell Elizabeth I'm sorry, loser. You're gonna be I'm not gonna go with you on a date. I'm gonna go be the third wheel with Sean and Myra. Pete, come on, man. You don't want to be the third wheel. What's wrong with you? So boom. Scott, hi, Nightcrawler. Am I intruding? No, of course not. I'm just sitting here being a creep, staring at my girlfriend talking with her parents, which she has every right to do. Get over yourself, Scott. I see that. Is that Jean out in the garden? Yeah. She's telling her parents what happened aboard this shuttle about a transformation into Phoenix. And they're taking it hard. As much as I'd like to, Nightcrawler, it is no swashbuckling and adventures and circus stunts. I have a name, Scott. Kurt Wagner, remember? Such bitterness in his voice. I have never heard Scott like this before. You think it's all fun and games, my friend? So look at that. So we got Kurt saying, "Oh, you think you got it bad? You think you got it bad?" And then a little bit of suspense. What's going on? This is using the page turn as part of the comic to build up suspense. Excellent comic book. Well, he is a communist. He is. He's a communist atheist. Suspense. We got these figures over here. Posters. Look at that dreamy. John Travolta, so dreamy. Farrah Fawcett with the same hair as Jean Grey. The Farrah Fawcett head dominated this period. And then he slaps him with his tail. Perhaps you're right. I've had a pretty easy life so far, I guess. Not at all like you. For example, I've never had to worry about optic beams. I've only been blue and furry since I was born. Are you trying to be funny? Really making a point. We are what we are, Scott. Wishing won't change a blessed thing, nor will feeling sorry for yourself. I learned very early on that I must either accept what I am or go mad, although I right now occasionally crazy, and I'm not insane. If you keep tearing your guts apart every time you think the world's shafted you, my friend, you'll destroy not only yourself, but those you love. Good advice there from Kurt, actually. That's pretty good advice. You gotta, at some point, you just got to accept who you are and just make a decision to be happy. I was an angry person for a long time. And one day, I think it was in my early 30s, I just decided I was going to be happy. It was literally a decision. One day, I was like, I'm going to be happy. Being angry and miserable doesn't get you anywhere. And I stuck with it, really. So, all you miserable people, you're deciding to be miserable. And that cup of coffee is so freaking good. Oh, man. Last you, Sean, your timing rots. Oh, wow. There's a 70s expression. Your timing rots. You rot. That was, oh my God. Marcus, you rot, Marcus. That was just such a 70s insult. You don't hear that anymore. I'm bringing that back. You rot. I'm going to say that at work from now on. You rot, man. I can't believe you did this. You rot. Ah, that moment's passed. Did I bust in on something private? No, Sean and Scott were just talking. What about the picnic? I wonder how Scott took what I said. I was pretty rough on him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he belted me. Now, no thanks, I mean, Sean, Kurt's giving me a lot of things to think about. Have a nice time. So I like that. I do like Cyclops at this point because he has been given a rough hand. Now, Nightcrawler has also been given a rough hand. He looks different. He's an outcast. Cyclops is an outclass. Now, who has it worse? Cyclops can pass for human, but Cyclops has to constantly control himself, or he could literally kill people. Nightcrawler doesn't have to control himself because he's not going to. His powers aren't dangerous to anybody else, but people don't accept him. If Scott's in control, when they not accept him, it's just because he's kind of a jerk and a stiff and a killjoy. Normal non-acceptance. Nightcrawler, so who has it's 5 of one, half dozen, or 6 of one, half dozen of the other. They both, and I like that. I'm coming along fine with us, Wolverine. The more the merrier. But since when did you become social? I ain't crashing your picnic. I just need a lift to the far side of the river. I've been out of the woods and I'm itching to do hunting, and he's back in his costume that John Byrne liked. You would take the lives of innocent animals, not for survival, but for sport. Even if I would, Broad, what flaming business is that of yours? I said, hunting, honey bunch. I said, nothing about killing. It takes no skill to kill. What takes skill is sneaking up close enough to skittish though and touch her. I'm sorry, Wolverine, I misjudged you. I could care less, Waro. You've all been misjudging me since the day I joined this turkey outfit. How's that 70s jive talk? You rot, Storm. And this is a turkey jive outfit. And then we cut to a black border indicating a break. These people in shadows with damn Canadians. Canadians are invading. Any sign of American fighter interception negative. I mean, really, they're invading American space. This kind of is a dangerous black ops operation. This could risk an international incident. But I didn't think of that as a kid. Fun games and some deaths along the way. Not feeling sorry for yourself in an X-Men comic. It's good advice. Yeah. But one of the things I quit the X-Men because I just couldn't take the self-pitying and everything like that. But this makes sense, and it's Cyclops. You know what I mean? It's one character. It's okay. Everything in moderation. The rest of the X-Men aren't like that. It's not whiny, woe is me all the time. And Nightcrawler says, I choose to be happy. I think that's inspirational. Look at the freaking guy looks like a monster, and I choose to be happy. And then every once in a while, his facade breaks, and you can see it, and it makes it that much more poignant. But I like that he's got this character, and he's always leading and inspire people. But now he needed advice from. It's just cool stuff. Being miserable is advice, absolutely. Some people just love their misery. They love their misery. What do they say? The devil, It takes risk to be happy and put yourself out there. Low on life, here comes the Sentinel. True. If Colossus did go on that date to see Star Wars, then he might identify with Luke and want to leave the farm. Oh wait, he already did. Luke is the worst. Luke Skywalker is just a whiny brat. Oh man, just a whiny brat. And then knowing what happened to Mark, who's the bigger disappointment? Luke Skywalker, becoming that big fat drinking blue titty milk on a hidden planet, abandoning all responsibility, or Mark Hamill? Who's the bigger disappointment? That's for you to decide. Let's go to the next page. So we got Wolverine out here in the nature. He's sneaking up on the doe. We got all of this Chris Claremont purple prose over here. Basically, a lot of words to say that he's sneaking up on a doe, a deer, a female deer. And here comes a ray, a drop of golden sun. Not anymore, little man. You recognize me? Weapon X, James McDonald Hudson at your service. Although these days I'm better known as Weapon Alpha. So he already was Weapon X. Oh, no. Recognize me, Weapon X. So Wolverine was Weapon X, and he's Weapon Alpha. Just smashing out of the ground. What a debut. Vacation's over, Wolverine. Control doesn't know what you've been doing in the States, and they don't really care. They just want you back, and I've been sent to get you. Do tell. I resigned, Jimmy boy. You were there when I sliced Jason's tie. I'm a free agent, and I like it. No way I'm going back for you or for anyone. You always were a royal pain in the butt, Logan, but first short and arrogant and feisty as your namesake. It's time you learned your manners, pipsqueak. You think you're tough enough to teach him to me, Aunt Jimmy? Bub, where I come from, there was a fight in words. And Wolverine never backs down from a fight. Good Lord, he's faster than ever. I barely got my force shield up in time. So I love that. I learned to really like James McDonald Hudson, Vindicator, Weapon Alpha, Guardian. I like that he's a scientist first and foremost. He's patriotic to his country. He's trying to do the right thing, and he has a conscience. He realizes that he's being used later on and tries to make up for that fact. I love that he's talking up, like he's a scientist now. We learn more about him later on, and he's trying to talk up that he's a tough guy, but he's really a science nerd. So he's talking like how a tough guy should talk, but he's like, "Whoa, geez, I was, he's, I don't know. I just think that, where Omnipro B says the dated dialogue is sometimes hard to overlook, but the arrow is so great. I tend to reread old comics with today's. Oh, so yeah, I don't know. I just immerse myself in, and like I said, I'm getting amused by hearing things that I haven't heard since I was a kid. Like you rot. That is such a 70s, like another burn, nailed. Like when somebody gets, falls for they fall for something. You got burned. You got nailed. There is no titty milk. Mark Hamill is a bigger disappointment because he actually supported the Empire. He ain't wrong on that. There's no way that these Canadian projects are not being funded by the U.S. What do you mean, like Weapon Alpha? That dismissive Jimmy. Yeah. The internal dialogue versus the external dialogue still works. Yeah. Wolverine talks like Wolverine. And you could always put dated dialogue in Wolverine because he's, a 300-year-old man? So he would use terminology from out of time. You know what I mean? It kind of makes sense. First move to you, Logan. You throw a good punch as ever. Like he's all talking, he's all bluster, and inside he's like, "Oh, geez, thank God I have a force field. He would have killed me." And here we got ordering comics. Look how streamlined the Marvel line was. What do we got? Amazing Spider-Man, Avengers, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Conan, Daredevil, The Defenders, Doctor Strange, Fantastic Four, Howard Duck, the Hulk, Invaders, Iron Man, Marvel Tales. That's the reprint of early Spider-Man, Marvel Team Up, Marvel 2-in-1, Master of Kung Fu, Power Man. See, it's not even Power Man and Iron Fist yet. Thor, Tomb of Dracula's, and Spidey Super Stories. I pretty much got every one of these that I could, The only one I didn't get was Tomb of Dracula. I wasn't into monsters, and I didn't think Dracula should be in the Marvel Universe. I've since got the comic, and I still feel Dracula shouldn't be in the Marvel Universe. He just doesn't fit. Or at least he should have been a character in the past, So we got, I love looking at the names to see if there's anybody that I recognize. Nope, I don't recognize any of the names, but there's the letters page. We got Stan Lee, wishing he looked that good. Look at that. We got candy bars over here. This always bothered me. It always looked like a torso with one leg, like a monoped, Just let's look at the comments. I find it hard to believe the Weapon X and Alpha programs are secretly funded by. Are they? Is that the reveal later on? Is that this? Are they secretly funded by the United States? I kind of like Canada is doing sneaky stuff too. It's a government. You can tell me the Canadian government doesn't do sneaky stuff. Hey, Buzz, how's it going? Good to see you. I never understood the need for Count Nefaria and Drac. Well, Count Nefaria is not a vampire. He's a mafia boss. He's head of the Magia. The Marvel has the Magia because they didn't want to say mafia, so they said Magia. And in my mind, and maybe they codified it in the comics, that Magia was the super villain, organized crime, with Silvermane and Count Nefaria, and and then the Mafia was regular Mafia, like the Punisher fights. No, I don't think so, but it would seem to be more layered to make sense. Yeah, but I want the Canadian government to also be bad guys. Like, all governments are bad guys. Like, the Canadian government's not benevolent, so I like the fact that they have sneaky bad, uh, programs too, because that's what happens. Power corrupts, and when you run a nation, it's corrupt. Like, if you ever read Captain Canuck, bad guys, the government in that comic also. So boom, look at that punch. Let's see how you go throw a punch. I ain't forgetting, Bub. You're forgetting the old days, Jimmy boy. No matter how hard you hit me, well, keep coming back. Big talk, Logan. That punch nearly took my head. So I love the fact that they're talking all macho, and then their thoughts are given away. Like, holy mackerel, that punch almost killed me. And then, oh yeah, you got claws. Ooh, I got force field. Oh geez, my force field barely stopped that. Despite our size difference, I was always better at everything than Jimmy. But now that glowing suit he's wearing, cripes, you could fly. How perceptive groundhogs. My battle suit is the ultimate product of Canadian technology. Its powers combined with my training make me the equal of an Avenger. Prove it, Jimmy boy, because till then, you're all mouth. And then Wolverine's thinking, how come I got the feeling he's just toying with me, but when he cuts full, it's going to hurt. So I love the braggadociousness and then the real thoughts. It's a shame that they don't do word balloons, thought balloons too much. I brought back thought balloons in Heroic Tales #1. And here we got Banshee, tossing Myra around in the pool. What a marvelous feeling, Peter, to have a day to ourselves without problems or danger rooms or death traps or supervillains. The fun feels so good. It reminds me, I wish I didn't have to wear these absurd scraps of cloth. Remember what happened when you went swimming in the mansion's pool? So, Storm's a free spirit. She likes to roam around naked. They're in the woods. Let her roam around naked. What are you doing? I remember, my friend, I'll never understand. It's only for the professor's sake that I endure this land's strange taboos. Peter, tell me about your homeland. So Peter's got this banana hammock on. Storm's wearing this tiny little bikini, and she wishes she was naked. Pete, you can let her be naked. You're in the woods. Nobody's going to say anything. And is she really, like later on, you find that she grew up in like Muslim Cairo. You know what I mean? Like, and we're supposed to believe that she's this naked, free nature spirit. You know what I mean? All right, whatever. And he's, so here he's talking about the Transbaikal in Siberia, where he grew up and everything. The summer was awesome, a lot of snow, and he's waxing poetic, and he's showing he loves his homeland, which is fine. I think everybody should be patriotic to their homeland. Like I love America. I don't trust my government. And I think that's a healthy way to be. I don't care who, whether you're a Trump guy, don't trust the government. If you're an Obama guy, don't trust the government. It's just a healthy, skeptical way to live. And I like that Peter's also saying that he loves the land. He loves the mountains. He loves the farm. He loves the snow. The government, he doesn't particularly trust. That is perfectly healthy. I like that. And when push comes to shove, that's his home. Perfect. That's cool. You should be like that. You're from England, love England. You're from Ireland, love Ireland. You're from Canada, love Canada. That's the place that fed you, gave you experiences. That's what made you. That's great. But the government, that's a whole nother ball of wax. And then boom, Wolverine comes flying. As they're talking, they're sharing a moment. They're not sharing a romantic moment. They're sharing a friend moment. Yeah, she's basically naked. He's basically naked. They're hanging out in the pool, but they're sharing a beautiful friendship moment. And I love all these people. The shippers are the worst people in the world. Oh my God. They don't understand that people can be friends. Like, Frodo and Samwise, they're not lovers. They're friends thrown together through the horrors of war. You know what I mean? If you can't understand the concept of friendship without a boner, there's something wrong with you. And that's what this is. This is two people becoming friends. You know what I mean? And then people are like, oh, Colossus and Storm. Yeah, you know, that's another like one of my minor pet peeves is how like interchangeable all comic book romances are. Yeah, yeah, I understand. Like this 1977, that's 60 years ago. Geez, 50 years ago. So you try to come up with story. Storm doesn't have to be passed around to every member of the Avengers and the X-Men. Rogue doesn't have to be passed around, or Scarlet Witch. She was like dating every member of the Wasp. Kind of works with the Wasp. She's supposed to be like that, but you know what I mean? But like a Scarlet Widow, she's supposed to be this, but like not every Avenger has to sleep with every other Avenger. They could be friends, they could be teammates, they're a military unit. You know what I mean? But there's also the soap opera. I understand it, but I like that Colossus and Storm could be friends over here, and then the shippers just ruin everything. Get out of my comics, you people. You're disgusting. But I rant. You got me ranting. Wow. Where? Oh wow, a lot of comments. A lot of comments. Jeez. Okay, this was the last comment. Direct mail ordering market was just starting when I started collecting comics, but I never took advantage. It would have bolstered my collecting. Yeah. Subscriptions. I subscribed a few times, but a couple of comics came damaged, so I didn't renew subscriptions. Drawing Aces. There you go. You could go there, check it out, find my comic. That's why I love Captain America. He has many internal issues with S.H.I.E.L.D. and secret government projects. Yes. Captain America is supposed to be a patriotic American, meaning the ideals, the people, the land, not the government. He's, you know what I mean? So I sarcastically love when people like Captain America he espouses my politics. No, he's not supposed to espouse politics. He's supposed to espouse ideals. Powered by maple syrup. There you go. Maple syrup, moral superiority. Magia sounds like there should be magic or mysticism. Yeah, Maggia. Yeah, Magia. Oh my God, that's a great idea. The Magia. The Magia is coming to get you. Sort of Jerk Classic. Also, a lot of secret government projects lead to internal enemies orchestrated, such as the Red Skull, Mystique, and Destiny. Yep. Good morning. How you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, Byrne created Alpha Flight just to fight the X-Men, not for an ongoing comic. Yeah, no, it. Marcus, you said that Byrne didn't even like Alpha Flight, which is, how can he make something so cool and such good designs and everything and then not like them? Just throwaway. I don't know. It just boggles my mind. Nefarious powers and appearances were weird. Yeah, he didn't have powers. As up until now, he's just a Austrian royalty who runs a mafia family. Think of him as like one of those elites from John Wick. He's one of the people who sits at the high table. And then in the Avengers, he gets superpowers and becomes like a Superman ripoff. But up until I think next year, 1978, he becomes a legit super villain. But up until now, he's just, like I said, a high table John Wick guy. Now with some effort, so many word balloons. Yeah, well, that's Chris Claremont for you. That's one of my favorite comics. Everything fine until someone crashes into a tree. Yeah, what a revolting development. Russians loving their country isn't lost on true boomers. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that, and I think that should be the default. You love your family despite the flaws. You love your country despite the flaws. That's something we need to come back to. Friendship boners are the worst. Wasp gets it in. Yep. They don't talk about Power Man being a cape chaser anymore. Was he? That was just so cringe. Brian Michael Bendis just making every woman just crave Luke Cage. It was like, all right, Brian, you like Black Man. I get it. You like Black Men. But can you tone it down a little bit in your comic? I don't get Byrne's distaste for his own creation. I know they're so cool. The problem is nobody wrote them well. What did Byrne do? Like 25 issues, and they were never a team. There were always one guy going off doing this, two guys going off doing that, and there was very rarely where they were coordinated team. And then Bill Mantlo came, and as much as I love Bill Mantlo, his run on Alpha Flight was adequate at best and embarrassingly bad at worst. Let's turn the page. All these ads that made comic books affordable. I keep asking, and I always forget, are there even ads in comic books anymore that are not house ads? Like, do movies advertise? Video games advertise? BB guns, bicycles? All of this stuff is gone. And this stuff is what made comic books affordable. Wolverine, he's unconscious, Peter. So here they go. I will face whoever attacked all these lousy breaks witnesses. And from the sound of it, they know Wolverine. Stay out of this, you people. My business is with Weapon X. Wolverine is our friend. If you want him custom one, you'll have to get through me. Your funeral, fella. Who is this bruiser? Sounds Russian. So just shows you how dumb Department H is. Department H is the organization that runs the Weapon X program. They're going to get Wolverine, and they don't know he's on the X-Men, and they don't know who the X-Men are. Don't you think you would brush up on which are the powers and teammates of Wolverine? Where is Wolverine? He's over there. Who's he hanging out with? Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, what's he doing? You spy on him. Oh, my God, he's with the X-Men? What do they do? Oh, that's Colossus? Okay, we got to wait till Wolverine. You know what I mean? Like, this is just shows you Canadian spy agency isn't as good as they should be. I love this transformation. Boom. And he just, before my eyes, that clown turned into steel. Jamie, lad, looks like you got a fight on your hand, which is fine with me. So he picks up the tree. Battle suit's working like a dream. I'm lifting this full-grown fir tree like it was a twig. Wrong, intruder. In attacking one X-Men, you attack them all. Don't. Hudson's mine. And he hits lightning bolts flaring from that black woman's hands, blasting the tree into cinders. Who are these people? She called herself an X-Men, talked like Wolverine was part of the group. So he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know who the X-Men are, what's going on, why they're there. You know what I mean? You didn't do your homework there, Jamie. And he blasts, and boom. By the White Wolf, my beam bounced off me and hit Spyro McTaggart. Ding! I love this. Look at that. Everybody looks horrified. Gordon Goodbrother laughing at my comment. I wonder if he thought it was a team of stereotypes. Look at the characters. They all represent some superficial facet of Canada. It's funny. That's a pet peeve of mine, and I'm going to do it too. When I introduce some international superheroes, it probably in Heroic Tales number 3. Patriarch number 3. When he meets them, when I debut the Meta League, the team that Patriarch's on, I'm going to show some international heroes. But that's just such a, like, when you go to Britain, you get Captain Britain. When you go to Canada, you get Major Maple Leaf. You go to Australia, you get Shrimp on the Barbie Man. You know what I mean? It's just very rarely do you go to Australia and you get Mr. Amazing. You go to Australia, you get Southern Cross or something like that. It's just the way it is. And yes, I'm gonna engulf in the worst of it. Where do you see my Australian superhero? I hope you like him. I love him. I love him. He's great. And my British superhero, I actually, I really, really, really like him. I really, really like him. So, well, I heard John Byrne's X-Men Elseworld was getting published, by the way. Yeah. But I hope he finishes it. It's finally being published in Marvel Comics, but I hope it's finished. Myth, Folklore, Ninja, Winter Sports, The Flag. Yep. Pretty much. Yeah, I never realized that. Yeah. Good call. Sometimes something's so obvious and it goes right over your head. I watched an interview with Burns talking about the Alpha Flight, who he referred to simply as fanfic. I think it's all house ads now. Yeah. I don't think that, and the house ads Marvel's got to pay for, so they don't have outside ads. That's why comics are so expensive. Jimmy, the X what? Yeah, I mean, the X-Men have been operating in the very second appearance of the new X-Men, they were called in because the Avengers are away. So how does Canada not know about the X-Men when the powers that be in America called the X-Men? You know what I mean? It's just, are the X-Men an urban legend or are they not? I always liked that about Colossus, his steel alloy anatomy. Yeah, Colossus. I love all of these original X-Men. Shrimp on the Barbie Man. Paul Hogan wept. Beer Man. Australia, it's Captain Kangaroo. They're all laughing. Yeah. Captain Kangaroo. Close to what I got. So here we got Devil Dinosaur and Moon Boy. The Dingaling family. Thor's going to fight some white rednecks. They're Dingalings. You never see Thor fight the Ghetto family, the EBT family. We just got to feed our family. We're stealing because I got 7 baby daddies and they ain't worth nothing, so I got to steal. And Thor's fighting them at a Walmart. No, he's fighting the Dingaling family. You can fight white trash, but you can't fight black trash. Oh. But at least the Dingalings, that how inbred hillbilly they are. They actually like fruit pies. That's how terrible they are. What poor white trash. H.P. Lovecraft was right about poor white trash. And here we got, oh my God, Myra. Sage be preserved. I got her out in time. She's still breathing, but she's out cold, and that's a nasty burn across her forehead. She could have a concussion or worse. And ye Major Maple Leaf, or whatever you call yourself, you're the man responsible, and it cost me my life. I'm going to make you pay. And like a man possessed, Banshee hurls himself towards his foe, with all the while pushing his sonic powers to their limits and beyond. That's the Banshee. I recognize his face from the old Interpol flyer. He's gone crazy. He's cutting loose with so much raw energy. His sonic beam has liquefied whatever they hit. I don't know if the battlesuit can cope with that much tightly concentrated punishment. Frankly, I don't intend to stick around. I've got to buy some time. Oh, great. 2 of them could fly. Face it, this mission's a total botch. Only a fool would say to fight super beings he knows nothing about. Well, that's your fault. You didn't gather enough intelligence. And James Hudson's no fool. And next time, equalize, I'll bring, boop. Don't worry. So he just disappears. Don't worry, Banshee. The villain has made himself invisible. The squalor, so she rings out of rain, trying to find out where he is. He's gone. He left. So did he teleport? What happened to him? And they explain it later on that he just nullifies himself to Earth's gravity and rotates. The Earth rotates and he stands still in relative position. So he instantly travels 1,000 miles an hour. Boom, and it simulates teleportation. I love that explanation. And I think they explained that in Alpha Flight 2 or something like that. The sooner we get more to medical attention, the better. Wolverine, that man, he spoke like he knew. Who is he? Why is he after you? Once upon a time, Petey, we were almost brothers. I'm real sorry, folks, but today's fracas was just the beginning. And from here on, things are going to get worse. So, so we're going to start learning more about, we're going to learn more about Wolverine's past right over here. This is the beginning of Wolverine's super mystery, And it's just good because they took their time. They drip release, like literally, this is 1977. Like, what was it, like 2005 before we learned everything about, we allowed the mystery to happen. Delayed gratification. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a big fan of delayed gratification. That's why I think binge watching is killing stuff. Binge reading is killing comics. And it's ironic that I say delayed gratification and then I complain about late comics and stuff like that. But this was monthly, and every month we had something but we had a complete issue monthly, a story. We didn't spend $35 for an epilogue or a prologue, and then 5 years later, still waiting for the rest of the story, and we're $120. No, this was 35 cents. Next month we spent another 35. Even back in 1977, 35 cents was affordable. I bought it with leftover lunch money. We got to get back to that. Captain Oz from Clandestine. Was that his name? I remember Clandestine. Australia had a real superhero, Steve Irwin. Yeah, I love Steve Irwin. I love Steve. I put Steve Irwin in like the category of like Mr. Rogers. He's just one of those, like, I don't know, like an ideal. Carl Sagan is another one. At least they weren't the Dingleberries. That would be funny. Then his trachea exploded. Yeah, Banshee's power. The Banshee's trachea explosion. He hid in a badger hole. Comics were only 17 pages back then. Yeah, 17 art pages, and then the rest were for ads. But 17 glorious pages. 17 glorious pages. So there you go. That's X-Men 109. As of now, I'll keep talking as long as the chat keeps moving. What do you guys want to talk about? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to do? I'm going to take a sip of delicious, delicious coffee. So, I'm concerned. Is anybody having a problem backing anything on Fund My Comic? Not just my comic, anybody's comic. I heard somebody got back to me that they were trying to back something else, and there was a problem. So just let me know. That's something I should know, as a contributor to the site, and also message Luke Stone or Telepathic Money, and they'll get it fixed if there is. Sometimes people just don't understand. But yeah, ads made it all happen. We as a kid didn't. Yeah. But you know what? But I love these ads, even as a kid. I mean, do you know how many times I talked about these and looked at them and wondered about them, and an Apple Worm Bank, rubber masks, Star Trek, I mean, obviously I was into all this stuff, I was obviously into all this stuff. Look at these ads. These ads are great. And then look at the 17 pages. But look at how much somebody was goofing on the word balloons. That's a lot of story. Yes, Chris Claremont could be verbose, but like the dialogue is perfect. These caption boxes, they could be sparsed down a bit, but it didn't get in the way of the art, and it made reading it an experience. Too many comics, it's just so I don't know. I love the ads. Look at that Sea Monkeys ad. That is amazing. It's so much fun. Even these ads were fun. Look at all that. Look at that Jack Davis werewolf over here. I love all this stuff. It's so much fun. The letters page. 17 pages. Only 17 pages, but what 17 pages? Just good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, yeah, here we are. How is the Indiegogo transition going? Did it affect me? It didn't affect me because I didn't use Indiegogo for my second campaign. I only got 10 backers on Indiegogo for Heroic Tales 1, and I was shadow banned. So I was like, why am I wasting my time when it doesn't pay? I'm putting a campaign on, and then that platform actively tries to make it so that people can't get my comic. So I was pissed. But now that they have the Game Found is running it, and somebody called me the Forrest Gump of comics because I'm always like, yeah, I met those guys, but I don't know what it is. I met those guys. I go to Dice Tower Con. I went to Dice Tower Con 5 years in a row in Florida, and it's the biggest board gaming convention. As much as I'm into comics, I'm into board gaming. And me and my wife would fly down to Florida and spend a week board gaming. And believe it or not, BackerKit is a board gaming company for crowdfunding board games. They bought Indiegogo. I played games with those guys. I sat at a table, we joked, and we trash talked each other, and we had fun, and assuming it's the same people, I like them. And believe it or not, a lot of board gaming is talk about diverse in the truest sense of the word. Half the people at the Dice Tower Con is run by the Dice Tower guys, and Tom Vassell and all those guys. They're super Christian. They homeschool their kids. They, they're pastors of churches. You know what I mean? And then the other half are super wokies, and they had a problem with the Dice Tower Con. And Dice Tower, they got scared for a little while and made concessions, and then they realized it was nonsense, and then found their footing and stopped with all the nonsense. So, contrary to what JDA says, Dice Tower, I like the Dice Tower Con guys. So, like the Game Found guys, they were all hanging out, not normal, regular guys. I don't know their politics, whatever. So I'm going to give it a second chance. So when Patriarch #1 goes live, my plan is I'm going to launch it on Fund My Comic, and I'm probably going to give Fund My Comic a couple of weeks by itself, and then I'm going to do Kickstarter and Indiegogo at the same time. I staggered Heroic Tales #1. I did 2 months on Fund My Comic, and then I did 2 months on Kickstarter, and then Indiegogo trail, and I put a different cover on each one. And I thought that was a great idea. This is going to get people to back it. And then people just like, I got to pay $30 in shipping. When if I just put all 3 covers on one site, I would have paid $10 shipping. You know what I mean? I hurt my campaign by doing that. And then Indiegogo shadow banned me. But I don't. So long story short, I'm going to try Indiegogo again because I'll give the new owners whom I liked, if it's the same people. I don't know. Maybe BackerKit was bought by evil people since then, because admitted this is 7-8 years ago. You know what I mean? It could be different people. I don't know. So I'll try it again. The only people who seems to have problems with it are Comicsgate people. And what are they doing? They're trying to enforce transparency and honesty. And what a coincidence. The Comicsgate people are having problems with it. I don't know. Other people seem to like it. I know Rockefoot put his campaign on hold. I didn't know anything about that. There isn't enough readers for those ads to be effective. Yeah, I know. That's the problem. Absolutely. 17 packed pages. You're absolutely right. Do I have a favorite Captain Marvel villain? I like your take on the character. In all honesty, I think you should. That is the one character that, in my hubris, I still imagine. As much as I love the Fantastic Four, I have no desire to write the Fantastic Four, or anything. I used to love the X-Men. I don't want to. I wouldn't touch the X-Men with the 10-foot pole these days. But Captain Marvel, Shazam, I would love to write that character. And who would I love Nirvana, Dr. Savannah, Mr. Mind is such a fascinating villain. There's so many cool villains. Black Adam. Like, my take on Black Adam, he comes from antiquity. Shazam was this ancient Solomon type wizard. And I would say, like, what did he do? He took Prince Adam. And what is Adam? Adam is the first man. So I try to think of it as metaphorical. So he's taking Black Adam. Now, Egypt used to be called Kemet, and Kemet means land of the black soil, the fertile soil. So think of Black Adam as the first of Kemet. Basically, he's Captain Egypt, and that's the way I would play him. Pre-Egyptian Egypt, like way Sphinx era Egypt. Basically, he was the patriotic superhero of the ancient world, Captain Egypt, Captain Kemet. And then that becomes bastardized over 5,000, 6,000 years to Black Adam. That's the way I would do Black Adam. But yeah, I would love to. I have in Eddie is Doomed. Eddie reads comic books, and there's going to be the Captain Mighty. He's going to be, my goof on Captain Marvel. Oh, I already saw that. The artist thought there should be word. The artist thought about where the word balloons. Yes. Rendo does that too. But when John Byrne drew this page, notice he left space for word balloons. I imagine he got a full script from Chris Claremont. Yeah, but look at all the space he left for word balloons. Absolutely, you're right, Marcus. You know, he drew, and they worked because he was a professional. He thought about there has to be word balloons. So you need to think about that as a comic book artist. Not a lot of decompressed storytelling. Absolutely not. No, these comics were written for the issue, not for the trade. Each issue had to sell each issue. This issue had to sell the next issue. So each issue had to be self-contained, satisfying into itself. And if you notice, there wasn't a lot of to be continued at the time. Those were like, whoa, to be continued. But it wasn't just everybody sitting around at the coffee shop and then the villain shows up in the next issue. No, you know, if it was continued, it was because this is a mighty story and needs 2 pages, you know, like the Dicken set. But every part of that Dicken, you know, Neutron Galaxy, you know, Starjet, there was a big wow moment in every issue, you know, and that's what we need to do. And that's what the crowdfunders need to do. I was critical in a private conversation, and I'm not going to mention who. And we were, what did you think of my comic? And I said, it's been build up. And now finally something's happening, but it's taken 2 years in real world to get to something happening. You need to pick up the pace. And I'm not the expert. I'm an amateur. I'm an amateur hobbyist. I have 1 comic book out. Next week, I'll have 2 comic books out. So consider the source. And I'm very, like, Vaughn Coleman and I had breakfast. We went to my favorite diner, and we were talking about comic book writing. And I said, I'm adequate. I'm not the best. I have good ideas, but execution is not the same. As, you know, good ideas does not mean good writing. You know, so I'm getting better. But one thing I am aware of is you're only as good as your last issue. You got to put some bang in every issue. You got to put something exciting in every issue, especially crowdfunding, because months are going to go by. Like, I'm so happy that Renzo said he's going to be done with Patriarch #1 in a few months. So by the time I'm done fulfilling, I could build up hype and then maybe put out the campaign for Patriarch #1 while people are still like either enjoying, seething, or hating or loving Heroic Tales 2. You know, there was a big wait between issue 1 and 2 because that's, you know, that's the way it is. But now, you know, I don't know. Am I? That's a lot to talk about because of not a lot of decompressed storytelling. But thank you for the comment. I was a bit more literate, I think. It was a bit more literate. Oh, okay, I read that wrong. It was a bit more literate. Yeah, they weren't writing for dummies. Like even Stan Lee said, he originally the X-Men were going to be called the Mutants, and he got nixed on that. And they said nobody knows what mutant means. And Stan Lee said the kids are smart; they'll find out, they'll figure it out. You know, and I still think that was now, you know, X-Men is ubiquitous. It's everywhere now, but I think it should have been called the Mutants. That would have been a better title. I love your exposition. I had Ken kept them off. Thank you. GameFound apparently made it harder to set up campaigns, as it should be. It should be harder. You know what I mean? I haven't done it yet. Maybe I'll agree with you next month. You know what I mean? But as of right now, good. Look what's happened. People are so disappointed with comic book crowdfunding that they're even telling me, man, I like you. You sound cool. I like you, but I'm done backing comic books because, you know, it should be harder. And the people that did it are the biggest complainers, and it's their fault. And I'm the bad guy when I point that out. You obviously got to go along with people to play games in person with. Yes, you do. There's people that I actively will not play games with. I got to sneeze. If you watched the video last night, bless me. If you watched my hand solo last night, me and Vaughn were trash talking to each other. That was a lot of fun. He took it seriously, and he beat me the first game. That's because I helped him. I coached him, and then I beat him the second game. So we got to have a rematch. But it was fun because he wanted to win, and it was fun trash talking, and it wasn't crybaby stuff. And I have like a house rule, you know, in my house, you could take back a turn as long as new information hasn't been revealed. So like you like you can't flip over a card and be like, oh man, I wasn't going to do that. Yeah, no, it's too late. The state of the board has changed. The state of the information has changed. So but you can take back it. Like I'm in the middle of my turn. It's my turn, and then Vaughn wanted to change something. Why? Because he never played before and he just figured out how to work. It's fine because I didn't do anything yet. Technically, it was my turn, but yeah, why not? I didn't reveal what I was going to do. I didn't roll dice. You know what I mean? And that seems to alleviate a lot of arguments. People seem to understand that it makes intrinsic sense, and that stops a lot of arguments. And I want you to want to win, but I don't want you to be a jerk about it. So that I got a couple of people that I'm like, you're just not fun. You're just not fun to play with. And then there's a couple of people who just like, I just want to have a good time, and they're not playing. And because it's supposed to be skill. You're not going to get better at anything if you play with some. So yeah, but yeah, again, I'm pontificating a lot. When is DC becoming public domain? I don't know, but when is Captain Marvel? Yeah, I still wouldn't do it. Just make up my own character, but I love Captain Marvel. I love the Rock of Eternity, the histogram. The Rock of Eternity. I just love that whole concept of it. The way it looks, it's this trapezohedron just floating outside of time and space. Zach isn't happy with the new term. Zach isn't happy. And again, I haven't looked into it. Maybe I'll be one of the completers when I start to launch my campaign. Maybe, but Zach is his own worst enemy. Black Adam was only in one. Yeah, he was only in one story, in one original CC Beck story. That's a good idea, John. Put that in your comic. What? Oh, Black Adam. Thank you. Yeah. I do have concepts for that. He's a connection to that fertile black soil. Is the most strongest in the Nile region. I have a magic character called Metaphysician, and the Metaphysician is based on my friend Jimmy's character. And I don't want to give his name or anything like that because I want people to learn stuff because he's a very complicated character. My friend Jimmy Griffin, if you're watching, hi Jimmy, he made up the character, the suit, Lucius Kane, and then I made up the powers. So and then Jimmy was like, he loved the idea of like whatever Lucius Kane needs is in his suit pocket. That's his main power, although he does have other powers. So if you read issue number 1, he pulls out that Polaroid, and that was exactly what he needed to get his goal, which was to get that job. But when we role play that character, I put the items in the suit's pocket. Jimmy pulls it out, and how he responds or reacts to it is up to him. Lucius Kane could have decided to turn in that person for horrible crimes, but instead he used it for his personal gain. That was him crossing the Rubicon. That was when he became a villain. But anyway, so that was Jimmy's bad guy character. Jimmy made a good guy character, and he wanted to be a wizard, like a Doctor Strange. He literally had 4 hit points, no superpowers, and I'm not joking. In 10 years of real time, it took him before he could cast his first spell. He went on a quest to understand how magic works, find a teacher and all this stuff. And so he was like a magical con man for like a long time, like early John Constantine, solving crimes and solving mysteries through wits without powers. And then now he's a powerful magician. But he never made a superhero name. So in order to make him in the comic books, I called him the Metaphysician. Now, anyway, long story short, when I debut him, he's going to have a whole bunch of magical. He's going to be my Doctor Strange. He's the doctor of the universe. He's the metaphysician. He fixes the nature of the universe. And I have a bad guy that I am so proud of. He's based on Gnostic religion. So once I tell that story, then I could open up the story for ancient worlds and stuff. So I do have a Captain Kemet kind of character in the background. So just buy my comics and I'll eventually get to them. Oh, my hip, old man hip. If I could write comics as if it would take on a new Teen Titans, one of my old characters would be the illegitimate son of Terra Man called Terra Kid. Write your own comics, write your scripts, do it. You never know. Go, find a cheap artist or another guy who's just willing to work with you to get a comic book made. To me, the most expensive part is hiring artists, a colorist, a letter. But if you could draw it, whatever. But write the script. The script is free. That's the cheapest, easiest part of the comic. Write the script. Just take a couple of days, rewrite it. Take another couple of days. You got yourself a script. But for me personally, I wouldn't do fan fiction of the Teen Titans. I have a Teen Titans team in my mind, and they're all kid superheroes, former sidekicks, stuff like that. But they're all original. But yes, they're inspired by the Teen Titans, but they're not the Teen Titans, because I want them. They're mine, and I want to tell their stories. I don't want to be tied to other people's continuity, which is why I had a real difficult time with Bill Williams' Punchline story. So, for those of you who don't know, Bill Williams has a comic called Punchline, which is a phenomenal comic. Versima and Mel are the two main characters. Versima is the young, idealistic, goody-goody superhero girl, and Mel is the older, wiser, cynical, world-weary ex-superhero. And I like their dynamic. And it's based in mythology and everything. It's hitting all my buttons. And he asked me for Punchline Annual #1 if I would do a 12-page story using Micah. And man, I didn't want to do it. Well, I jumped out. I said yes. But then, because it's great exposure and it's a great opportunity. And he asked Bill Willingham to do a story. I hope Bill Willingham draws it. Oh, man. To be in a comic book written by Bill Willingham and drawn by Bill, that would be a dream come true. So I jumped at the chance. And I'm the only one done. I'm already done with that project. It's all in Bill's hand now. But it was freaking me out because I'm a continuity freak. How do I get one of his characters into my world and vice versa? And it doesn't change the rules, because then I got to accept all of his rules. You know what I mean? And now I have to write my comic books thinking about what goes on in Punchline. And I know Bill isn't like that, but I'm like that. So I think I came up with a good way to work it. And you be the judge. You be the judge. But the only problem is, I wanted to put all my characters. So I got King Fu and Public Eye and Mary Sue and Patriarch. They're all on a team fighting, but they haven't met yet in the comics. So it's someday. Bill says I could take it. I could publish it in my stuff later on. So I will publish it in Heroic Tales in the correct order at some point in the future. But it's okay because it involves beyond time and space and stuff like that. So there you go. Man, I thought I was going to stop talking, but you guys are asking questions that are getting me pontificating. I think it's 8 or 9 years before the first Superman Batman becomes public domain. Yeah. And I dread how bad it's going to be when other people could. For every Mark Miller who's going to do a wonderful Superman, there's going to be Superman cannibal, Superman serial killer, Superman zombie hunter. It's just the way it's going to be. It's just the way it's going to be. Well, you never know, because isn't DC going? Yeah, all the characters are going to go public domain at some point. Like, for all I know, isn't Superman already? No, he's not public domain yet. I'd probably call it Galactic Titans or something like that. Okay. Heroic Tales, you could still get Heroic Tales. You could still get Heroic Tales. Like I said, I overprinted it because that's what you do. And what's funny is I because I had board games, I cleaned over and I found a whole box of Heroic Tales #1 that I forgot all about. So I got more because I already have the second edition cover printed. Not printed, made, ready for print. So when I have to do the second, I hope that I have to do a second edition. I'll have the second edition cover. I can't wait. It's such a good cover. Such a good cover. But anyway, there you go. I'm all caught up. Anybody else have anything else to say? Anybody? Bueller? All right. I guess we'll call it a day. Thanks a lot, everybody. At this point, I usually give my schedule. I literally have nothing scheduled for next week. The only thing I do have scheduled is we'll do X-Men 110 for Sunday Comics a week from now. And Friday night we'll do It's Clobbering Time, and it's going to be patriotic superheroes. And so we could put Vindicator. He's, Guardian. He's the Canadian's Captain America. But I don't think I have anything else scheduled. Yeah, I have literally nothing else scheduled because it's hard to do it with my. So I'll be doing more comics. Maybe I'll do midnight streams. I don't know if I'll be doing noon streams unless I have conversation. So that's my week's plan. Just one more check. Okay, no more comments. So I guess it's time to say goodbye, kids.